on the Shabbos after I got officially kicked out of Martin Luther King Middle School. My family had dinner at the House of the Salts. I passed my poem to Esther under the table during the chicken. She read it through the glass of the tabletop. Then she told me that my poem made her sad, and that since I wrote it, it was me who made her sad, and that sadness of a girl was the sure sign of a bad match. And she broke up with me, and I didn't believe it at first. I thought she was just upset. Just talking, she said. A bond between two people is only as strong as the desire of the one who wants it the least. We were in the Salt's backyard by then, and the rabbit was watching us. I said to the rabbit, and the rabbit took off. I repeated what Esther said to me, and I noticed that it was not officially correct English because it was only two people. It should have been, any bond between two people is only as strong as the desire of the one who wants it less. I told Esther about the grammatical problem because I wanted to change the subject, because I still didn't think she was serious about breaking up. And then she started crying, and for a second I thought she was serious about breaking up, but then I thought, no way, we're in love with each other, and people in love with each other might argue, but they don't break up with each other, not when they're in love. But I decided she was crying because it was Rabbi Salt who'd spoken the relationship wisdom to her, and no one likes to think their father is mistaken. Esther sniffed in a way that I thought was cute, because it wasn't gross at all, even though it meant wet snot was moving around inside her face. The sniffling made me want to touch her sleeve, but I did not touch her sleeve. She was Hasidic, and the sleeve was too close to the hand for them. So I said, "It doesn't matter, Esther, because it sounds better with the least." It's really impossible to know which is the right way to say it, because the problem might not be less or the least, but any two people. If you had said any bond between 3, 4, or 5 people is only as strong as the desire of the one who wants it the least, that would have been correct English. But correct English is usually not the strongest kind of English anyway. She was wearing a brown scarf that had fringes, and she wiped the tears on her cheeks and fringes mashed together. The rabbit came back, and it was staring at her. I threw a wood chip at its head, and it ran. I didn't like rabbits at all. They'd stare off like thinkers, but I knew they weren't thinking. "I love you," I told Esther. I said, "I don't want to make you cry." She said, "I don't feel like you love me. Why are you always correcting people? If you didn't correct people so much, we would still be in Schechter together. And you wouldn't have written the poem and made me sad with it. And then we could still be together." She wanted me to cry, and I was failing. I didn't want to fail. I wanted to cry for her, but I couldn't. I told her, "I'll cry soon." Esther said, "No, you won't. I've seen you cry." She said, "You only cry about crazy things like the Intifadas, and Jonathan getting passed over for David, and Moshe getting banned from Eretz Yisrael. You don't cry about the things you're supposed to cry about." Which is when she stopped crying. It was my turn more than ever, I thought. Esther is being mean to you so that you will cry because it is your turn to cry and you're late. I said to her, "I cry when I'm angry and my dad says something nice in Yiddish." She says, "That's a crazy thing to cry about, Gurian. It makes no sense." By then I knew she'd broken up with me. Or that at least she thought she had, because it wasn't like we stopped being in love with each other, I thought. And Esther wasn't even saying we stopped. Even if we were still in love, that meant we'd get back together eventually, because that's what you did when you were in love, was be together. I said, "I'm sorry, Esther Salt." I said, "I hope we can get back together again soon." "There is nothing to be sorry about. You can't help it," she said. "You just make me sad, and that means we are a bad match. I wish we'd never fell in love with each other." Rabbi Salt came out on the patio and told us it was time for honey cake. He waited at the sliding glass door for us, and Esther stared at me for an extra second to see if I would cry, and I couldn't cry. And she went inside ahead of me. When I passed her dad, he put his arm on the back of my neck and squeezed a couple times. It was a warm, rough hand. My favorite student, he said. I hear you've been expelled from King for a fight. I said, a 7th grader attacked me and I beat him into submission. Then his friends came up, 7 of them, and I picked up a brick, and right then is when the recess lady came, and everyone said I used the brick on the first kid. Rabbi Salt said, you didn't use the brick? I said, I don't need a brick for one kid. I know, he said, relax. Let me back into Schechter, I said. I can't, he said, it's not up to me. I said, I want to study Torah with peers. Rabbi Salt said, go to Hebrew school. I said, Hebrew school is not for scholars. He said, Gurian, you need to be realistic. You threw a stapler at Rabbi Unger and everyone knows it. And that email from Kalish, it's too late for damage control. Maybe in high school, if you act like a mensch in the meantime, people will forget. But please don't waste your energy on false hope. It will warp you. You'll be lucky if I can get you into this aptikisic. I said, what's aptikisic? The rabbi said, I'm going to speak to your father about it after cake. But my friend Leonard Brodsky, the father of Ben, may Hashem bless his soul, is the principal there. I called him up and he's considering you. The schools in Deerbrook Park is the only problem. We'll have to figure out a way to get you there, or at least to one of the bus stops. And we'd likely have to do this for any school, so I said, I want to be a scholar. He said, think about the future. You act well at the Taptikisic, and who knows, maybe Ida Crown Academy lets you in for high school. He squeezed my neck again. Then he went into his dining room to eat cake, and I stayed by the glass door and watched the rabbit as I cried. Its haunches kept twitching. I thought, this is not a crazy thing to cry about. And it turned out not to be. Aptikisic was 25 miles from our house, so I couldn't have friends outside of school, and there was no other choice except Catholic school, with all its miniature false messiahs hanging from miniature torture instruments, hanging from the walls, or boarding or military school, which my mom would never allow. And then I get there, and Brodsky puts me in the cage and calls me BD. It was hard to find the justice. I thumb-drummed the teacher cluster's fake wood surface, chewed cheekfuls of cheese puffs, and made a decision. I was never in love with Esther Salt to begin with. If we'd been in love, she wouldn't have told me it was crazy to cry about the stuff I cried about. I decided that the only reason it ever seemed like I was in love with her was because I said it a few times. And when I said it, it was true. But when I stopped saying it, it stopped being true. When I stopped saying it, it made me a liar. It made me so I was lying those times when I said it. So maybe I was a liar. But I'd never been in love before June. So there was no danger of the smelly version affecting the good version. There was never really a smelly version. It was something else completely. The thought cheered me up a little, and I ate a couple bites of my sandwich, but then I thought, how do I know I'm in love with June? I thought, if all it ever was with Esther was that I kept saying I was in love, then later on, if I ever stop saying it to June, I'll just be a liar again. So I wrote it down, because when something is written, it has a better chance of being permanent. I wrote it down with a darker. On the brown paper bag, I wrote, I am in love. Jelly saw. She said, with Jenny Manji, I knew it. You should be in love with me. I finished writing with what I was writing. With Eliza June watermark. Jelly said, that girl, June? I know that girl. I had art with her in the 4th. She painted violent things. I looked at what I wore, and I saw there was a problem. No one who saw it would know who loved June. So I signed it, and it looked like, I am in love with Eliza June watermark. Truly, Gurian Ben Judah Maccabee. But then the truly part made it sound like I doubted myself. If I saw it, I would think the person who wrote this is unsure of himself. I would think Gurian Ben Judah Maccabee. must have written truly, because sometimes he isn't true. What he says isn't true, which means he's a liar. If he's a liar, it'd be a schvantz to believe him just because he's telling the truth. So I scratched out truly so that it looked like I am in love with Eliza June watermark, scratched out truly, Gurion Ben Judah Maccabee. Except now it looked like Gurion was even more unsure of himself. I blacked out what I had written entirely, and Jelly said, "Thank God, I knew it wasn't true." I flipped the bag plate over, and this is what I wrote. Gurion Ben Judah Maccabee is in love with Eliza June watermark. That was the most concise sentence I'd ever written, so I left it. But you can't be Gurion. She paints so many violent things. She painted a comic strip one time of a pink monkey telling a man about the ass of another man who was fat. And then the first man goes and cuts the ass of the fat one off and brings it to the monkey. And the monkey pays him money and takes the ass of the fat man and puts it on a plate, a silver one. I said, "Did the monkey chew the ass?" "It was implied," said Jelly. "How?" She said, "The monkey had a bib on." "That's subtle and hilarious," I said. Hilarious," said Mucus. "Yes, I said. "Yes, Scott said. "The mastication of the ass is made possible by the people who brought you eye teeth. Let us make man, and in the image, the crown and the wisdom and the understanding, the judgment and the love, the beauty and the splendor. Let us not forget the victory. Let us not forget the kingdom and the foundation. The kingdom is the mouth. In the mouth there are teeth. The foundation is the penis of us." "Scott Mucus," said Bota. He calls me Scott Mucus, and I scream to him, "Penis!" "Close up your idiot mouth," Bota said. "Stop acting like a moron." Benji Knockmook mumbled, "One day I'll cut your tongue out and paste it to your shirt." "What was that?" said Bota. Benji said, "I'd like to spray accelerant on your mustache and toss matches at your face." Are you saying something to me?" Benji half-rapped. "While you're munching at your luncheon, I'm planning your assassination." Pling! It was Zealots by the Fugees. Bota said, "You have to speak up, Nakamaki." "I don't have to do anything," said Benji. "It's lunchtime." Jelly said, "That girl's so weird, Gurion." Benji said, "What girl?" "And she used to go out with Ruth's ex-little brother," Jelly said, ignoring Benji. "When?" I asked. "Just last year," Jelly said. "For how long?" "Who cares how long? His brother's a dickbag. And he worships his brother. And he tried to go out with me because Ruth is my sister and he wanted to date Rothstein like his dickbag brother. This Rothstein wasn't having it. I would not go out with him, but after I saw how his brother treated Ruth, and after I said, 'No, man, go away, you worship a dickbag,' he went out with June." "Do you want to know his name?" "Ask me his name. I've been keeping you in suspense, but I'm ready to end it. Don't you know what the name of June's ex is?" "Maybe," I said. "I don't think I do," I said. "Well, that's dumb, because you should. His name's Josh Berman." I thought, Josh Berman. I know that name. How? At least he's an Israelite. The latter thought looks a lot more racist than it was. The wording is accurate, but at least he's an Israelite means. At least I know for sure that June's not one of those Israelites I read about who doesn't want to date other Israelites. And then I remembered how I knew his name. I read it in the Aptokisic News. I'd read it in an article written by Ruth about the main hall shutters. "Josh Berman," said Jelly. "Josh Berman," said Jelly. "Not just a main shower shover. And not just a Jewish shover," said Jelly. "But the Alpha Dog King of all Jewish shovers," said Jelly. "How's that?" said Jelly. "What do you think of that?" said Jelly. What I thought of that was I didn't want to think about it at all. I didn't know that any Israelite main hall shovers. I only knew about them. I only knew what Ruth wrote about them in the Aptokisic News. And I knew I didn't like them. I disliked all main hall shovers on principle. And as for the Israelite ones, hate was probably too strong a word to describe what I didn't want to think about it there at lunch. I didn't want to think about shovers or any of it. Did I kiss him? I said. Jelly said, "Shh." Did she kiss him? I said. Jelly said, "Shh." I wanted least of all to think about them kissing, but I saw that I had to. Did she? I said. Probably, said Jelly. I can't say for sure. Then don't say probably. They went out for a while, maybe 3 weeks. That's why I said it. But you don't know for sure, I said. No, but I don't know for sure that she didn't kiss him either. I thought, if June kissed him, this person, Josh Berman, was only a kiss. Then they broke up. She broke up with him. She broke up with Josh Berman if they kissed or didn't kiss, and that meant she wasn't in love with him. But then I thought, you don't know what a kiss is. You've never kissed anyone. Only a kiss? That's a line from the movies, a lyric from a show tune. You don't know what it is any better than you know who broke up with you. Who broke up with who? Who June loves and doesn't, and who June loved or didn't. I must look bad because Jelly backed off. All I'm saying is she's weird, Jelly says. She's just weird. Who's weird? Said Benji. Jelly said, pay attention. But I heard everything you said, Benji told Jelly. I was just being polite because I wanted to be in conversation. But you weren't talking to me, and it sounded like your conversation was private. And I didn't want you to feel like I'd invaded your privacy. So when you said some girl was weird, I asked you which girl, so that you wouldn't think someone had been eavesdropping on you. I'm highly sensitive when it comes to other people's privacy. You should know that about me, Jelly. So I'm asking you, what girl? Even though I know, I'm asking it as a favor to you, so you won't feel invaded, so I won't feel invasive, so we won't walk forward, so we won't feel awkward, so we both feel the same. And now we do feel the same. That much is true. But the same in this case is no good kind of same. We both feel uncomfortable. You criticized my gesture and made us uncomfortable. Now we have to work together to repair the situation. And so to that end, I'm saying, what girl is so weird? Then you have to be polite enough to tell me, Jelly.